Everybody wave at the camera. Say hello to everybody out there.
Hi, world.
Hi, world. Everybody that's watching, this is the Talking Energy Show. We're blessed to have a podcast studio inside of Trace Management. They're an oil and gas engineering firm. They do, of course, engineering projects, and they run consultants through their company. So if you need anybody out there on your projects, look to them, or they can do the projects. We're here today with my friends. As always, I just want to introduce amazing people that I get to meet and their companies and what they do, and talk about their stories, and hopefully shed a little bit of light on the amazing things that our industry does. Let's go around the room and introduce ourselves. Introduce yourself.
My name is Phil Owens.
I'm Tony McSparrin with Patriot Wellhead.
And Nick Armoudian with Patriot Wellhead.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. We'll go back the other way. How'd you get in oil and gas?
No, that's a good question. In 99, I had moved back to Oklahoma. Oklahoma was home. Tony and I grew up together in Weatherford. When I came back, the reason I came back was to work with Williams in Tulsa. And at the time, Williams was a prominent player in the pipeline industry and the production side, also telecommunications. So the tech side is what brought me back. But then as I helped them with some of their communications and whatnot, it pulled me into the oil and gas, and that's the stuff that we grew up with in Weatherford.
Interesting. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, it's all I've ever done. I got out of high school in May of 1980. A friend of mine that had graduated the year before came in the place I was working and said he needed a hand that night, and like a dummy, I said, I'll go. And so I've been there ever since, 1980.
What was the first company you worked at?
Zip Tool.
Zip Tool.
Yep, Nipple Up Company.
Nipple Up. Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
That's a heck of a gig.
Yes, went from high school to
danger.
beating on hammer wrenches, yes.
Hey, man, without them, our industry would suffer, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What about you, Phil? How'd you get in oil and gas?
It's I'm not going to tell that story. You don't have enough time. But I went to work in '77. Went to work for a division of Baker in the mud business. And one thing led to another, and led to another, and led to another, and here we are today, 40-something years later.
40 years in oil and gas. Mm-hmm. That's a legacy. Yeah. You've seen a lot, and you know a lot of people.
I've seen a lot. I've worked worked on the North Slope, worked in the Rockies. I never worked offshore. I always wanted to go offshore. My whole career, they said, Owens, we don't have an ocean up there. You can't go to the OTC, so you're going to have to learn to do things up here.
Gotcha.
So,
well, for everybody watching, Phil is one of my most cherished mentors. He's always done everything he could. Anytime, whether I wanted him to help me or not, he finds ways to make sure that everybody around him is taken care of. And I've always loved that about you. You do so much for our industry, and really, I mean, your light has always shined, in our basin for sure. If not, I mean, everywhere you go, everybody knows you. That's pretty hefty.
I'm appreciative. Thank you very much.
Yeah, always impressive. Well, so where was your first company at?
So
the Williams? That was, or was it?
In terms of working in this industry, yes. So Williams in Tulsa.
Williams in Tulsa.
If you...
what's the communication part of that? I was interested in that when you said that, because I actually came from, my first real job was more Marconi, and I did I was in the basement of Williams at one time, installing batteries. I was very curious about, how you jump from, that to the Williams side of it. They needed IT guys.
So there's a lot of aspects to it.
Yeah, I'm just always curious.
Without going into a deep dive, most of what we looked at were their telemetry systems. So again, being a midstream company, predominant midstream company at that time, that was their focus. That's where the challenges are between the E&P company itself, the producer, the production company, and the midstream company. But there were other aspects to it. And Williams was...
So early on adopters of understanding just how vital technology in the future was going to be.
And
data.
We could do a separate podcast on how technologically advanced Williams truly was.
Yeah.
I'll give you one quick anecdote. all of the NFL stadiums, the Democratic, the RNC, when they have their events, the Olympics, from the 80s, Williams was the preeminent company because they got so good at the communication side that would carry and broadcast all of this information. So this was all being done through Tulsa, Oklahoma. So yes, it started with pipeline, but they were very ingenuitive, and I was glad to be a part of it.
Man, they still are.
It still are, and that's a lot of that has now come into Devon.
Yeah.
The WPX people that came over to Devon are fantastic people, and they bring a lot to Oklahoma City.
We were very blessed last night. We, in our area, we have AADE, SPE, IADC, the Natural Gas and Energy Association of Oklahoma. Man, I don't want to miss out on anybody. API, of course. We're on the board of API.
APG.
I was saving the AAPG. On
The landmen.
the Petroleum Alliance of Oklahoma. Is one of the organizations that was, again, another advocacy group. We all got together last night, and we had, we're just quarterly, we're all going to try to mingle the groups and come together, see how we can help each other, and of course support the industry. And Clay Gaspar came and spoke at the event, and man, what a speaker always, and he knows I'm trying to get him in here at some point too, but so I'm going to butter him up in this, but he had a lot of very great answers to a lot of tough questions even. And part of that was tax on oil and gas right now on the digital side of things, the infrastructure side of that. So I'm always impressed by the technology of our industry and where it's going. I think we probably bring a lot of leading technology to the entire world because of all the people working on it.
Without a doubt, it's what you see in the evolution of this industry worldwide is all predominantly developed from the U.S.
Yep.
And that's under the ground, above the ground, transport, all of it.
I mean, who knew back in the day, like Patriot Wellhead, normally just needed hands to, put steel together and work on steel. But I mean, I bet a lot of people in your company work pretty much just on the digital side of things. Not a lot, but I mean, like, there's a lot.
You have a combination. The fundamentals are always going to be there.
Yep.
Right. And again, Tony's the expert. Right. He's he's done it all. He's done it all in every basin, at least here in the U.S. But pressure, formations, those fundamentals don't change.
You've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Well, tell me all about Patriot Wellhead. How did the company get started? What is it? What does it do for those that don't even know what a wellhead is? Explain as much as you can about Patriot Wellhead. Where you're going?
Well, okay, Nick could
It's a
probably
lot,
answer
right?
all this better. But
I just threw a lot out there. Like, hey, tell me where you're at now, where you're going.
But Nick and I started Patriot Wellhead in 2015 early. The company itself actually started around 2013.
2013, yeah.
And we started in a little rental building out in El Reno, working elbow to elbow out there trying to get things done. And when we bought this company, we had no customers, had a lot of inventory and a lot of bills.
Wow.
And so we went out and we got customers. We were very fortunate. I mean, I have been in the business for a long time and people do know me. So we built our business from there, bought a facility in Oklahoma City, bought another one in Gardendale. And
That's Gardendale, Texas.
yeah,
Right.
Gardendale, Texas, sorry. And we have every intent of continuing to grow. We're facing the same thing, in the market, right? I mean, our company's gone up and down. We had over 50 employees 3 years ago, and we're not quite that large now. We're down to about 24, 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. Looking to expand a little bit. Everything's picking back up. We've had a lot of inquiries lately. It'd be nice to see all these guys pull the trigger on everything.
Sure.
But we're looking to grow, but we are basically a Permian, Oklahoma company right now. Not that we're not open. Nick and I do everything ourselves, so it's kind of can't get spread too thin.
What is the secret to that longevity so far, do you think?
Well, good service. I mean, wellhead business is pretty much a commodity item,
Sure.
right? Everybody can supply you pretty much the same product.
Okay.
It's all about being able to take care of it, solve problems. Solving problems, I think, is the biggest issue. And we just work close with our customers to give them what they want too. You've got to get to know your customers, and Wellhead, we start on the drilling side, but the reality is we need to know completions and production, what their game plan is down the road. So initially we're selling the drilling, but we've got to satisfy the other end too. So just mainly that's it. I think we work real hard to tailor the solution to fit our customers across the board.
Maybe just for those that are hopefully watching, we talked about this at lunch. We always hope that people outside of oil and gas are curious, or those that are in oil and gas that don't know this side of the business. What does a wellhead do?
Okay.
Well,
Well,
explain it to my 5-year-old.
okay. Well, and of course, when they drill a well, there's actually several strings of casing, several strings of pipe and tubing. So wellhead is the piece of equipment that suspends and isolates each string of pipe as it's running the well. And overall, I've been in the business 40 years, and wellhead hasn't really changed. Yes, we've improved seals. Everybody today runs what we call time-saving systems, but to be honest with you, we had those 30, 35 years ago. But when it took 3 months to drill a well, you couldn't sell a guy on saving 8 hours. It didn't matter. But now it takes 8 days to drill a well.
Time matters.
That day matter, yeah. So the speed systems are certainly the standard operation nowadays.
That automation of things. What do you see in the future for wellheads that you might be able to add value?
Well, I think it's way down the road, but like I said, well, it hadn't changed for us in 40 years.
Sure.
I think there's a potential for for new material, basically.
New
You really can't change the system. It's to hang pipe, so it's all going to have the same function. But we're still using 4130 and 4140 steel. I think that's going to be the way to go in the future. Hopefully there's better materials out there.
Metallurgy. Yeah, different rubbers.
Right.
That's great. What how many employees do you guys have right now? You said 20?
About 24. Right?
24. That's good. So what's most of their functions, do you think, as far as operations go?
We're about half and half. I guess I'd have to divide that into thirds. We've got, office personnel, which Nick and I, and a couple of admin. We got a retired lieutenant colonel who he does it all for us. He's our safety, inventory control, and our HR
Emphasis on safety.
Hey, you know what? Let's have a little safety moment brought to you by Night Fire Specialists. Guys, if there's any kind of emergency right now, you guys just take the door right there and go to the right, and then go to another right, and you'll be out the front door. So there's our little exit strategy.
Excellent.
Right?
And pull the fire handle as you're going out.
I don't think we have a fire handle, but we do have like a fire suppression system brought to you by Night Fire. See, plug away. Anything you want. I know a lot of you guys are pitching into the AADE clay shoot coming up, which Phil and I are part of that, and you guys are going to give us all water. So there's another safety moment for you. Keep us hydrated while we're out there clay shooting.
Do keep hydrated.
You guys clay shoot? Are you putting a team in too?
No, we're not, because again, as Tony said, as much as we love it,
Yeah.
we're not.
You want to be out there mixing it up with everybody.
We tend to try to do something well when we get engaged, and we're really there to support the ADE. We're going to bring a friend of mine who's probably the top gunsmith in Oklahoma.
Oh, nice.
Who's gonna be there to help out anyone who has questions or has problems. And we're going to meet some of the new young people that have come into the industry that we haven't had an opportunity to meet yet. So that'll be our focus, and so we're going to sacrifice our time shooting clays, but it'll be a good time.
Patriot Wellhead will be well represented.
Yeah, well, I knew that because you could like put your logo on every bottle nowadays, right?
We
don't need
we
to do
can.
that.
I
I'm
don't.
just messing
I don't think we'll do that. We're just we're going to shake hands and meet the folks.
And hang a banner.
Yeah, I mean that's been my fortune in my sales career is being able to be at every single event possible. I have FOMO. That's everybody always like, how do you get to all these? I have the fear of missing out. I have to go for myself. I just don't want to miss my friends on the playground. Right. But that's April 29th in
McLeod, Oklahoma.
Cloud, Oklahoma at Quail Ridge. So anybody watching, make sure you get signed up to either sponsor or put a team in. You'll have a lot of fun. Clay shooting is great. Anyway, back to Patriot Wellhead. So future wellheads, you don't see changing much except for the metallurgy right now.
Yeah. I mean, the only changes in wellhead that really happened over the 40 years are cost-saving medicine.
The mechanics are already there. You're at peak performance on wellheads now.
Right. Yeah.
What about I'm always curious. I throw audibles at people, but like we now have, one of the things I do is rent drill pipe unit operators. So, now they have wired pipe to collect more data. It's not really drilling so much with it, but, while it's down there, it's collecting data. So do you see the possibilities of the wellheads collecting data?
The
Wired wellheads?
wellhead itself, no, but certainly, of course, right now they're
Sensors, I guess, adding more
everything
sensors.
added on, right?
Yeah.
Add on. Again, your wellhead sales are always low cost, right? So,
Not anymore. Where it's time. We are all, and if we all are in agreement in this room, it's time to raise prices. And that's okay. The operators agree that they want us around for their future. And the only way to do that is to get a little profit in right now so that we can maintain the level of service and quality that they hope for now and in the future.
that's exactly.
We're partners. Clay Gaspar said it last night. We are symbiotic.
Yep.
We need each other.
Yep.
I really hope that that is very understood now.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope that we're back to the point where they understand that the service companies have to make a fair profit. And if they don't, they're not going to be around to take care of their needs when they have those needs. And we did talk about that last night.
What's some of the stumbles and hurdles you've overcome, you guys think, in this business that you could give some wisdom to for those that might be getting started with their own service company? Yeah. How to find money, to get a service company, going, how to, continue it if you need money. Capital is always something, or employee issues or equipment issues.
Yeah, the money is on that side of the table.
You have a Rolodex, or you have a big pocket?
No, it's a good question. And the topic really of 2022 was it really revolves around being conservative. And when Tony and I agreed, we shook hands 7-8 years ago and decided we were going to do this together. We had a very common philosophy, and that philosophy, first of all, was we wanted to do things right. So we do everything above board, et cetera, et cetera. But there are no extravagances. So the money, if you're doing this to make money, to live a luxurious lifestyle, then I probably am not the person to talk to. But if you take the money, you invest that money into training for your people. We've already touched on safety. We constantly invest in safety in a manner of different ways, programs.
3 years. 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years, no accidents, no
No
injuries, no
recordables,
recordables.
Yeah, no incidents for 3 years, and we're very proud of that.
You should be proud of that. That's astounding. That goes right back to you guys believe in your safety culture and your training.
Yeah, but reinvest, and if you're still, if you're fortunate enough to be cash flow positive, create a treasury, because there's going to be a downtime. And Phil knew that, Tony knew that, and I knew that. So we had some success in 2017 and 2018. We had great customers, and if we were throwing off extra cash after, whether you're buying new vehicles or new tools, hydraulic torque wrenches are pretty expensive still. Once you do all that, you go ahead and put the rest of it back, and that's what got us through the last 2 years. If you do that, then you're not at the mercy of the creditors. So we're fortunate we are not. Tony and I are completely independent, so we don't deal with overhead. We don't have anybody else's rules, and that's the best advice I can give anyone who's trying to get into this business.
What do you think how the culture of your company is besides just safety? How do you feel about your team? What do you guys do to set yourselves apart where your employees are so loyal to you?
Well, we treat them well and we work them hard. But
I think everybody in this industry understands the work ethic that goes into it.
we've got,
I don't mind working hard, but I love the rewards of a good company.
well, I'm not going to tell you we've got to where we can, give them great rewards, but we treat them with respect. We do take care of them when we can, when things are up and everything's going. Through the 2 years, our service personnel, they weren't able to get their 40 hours in the field.
Sure.
So we brought them in and worked them in the shop, and we made sure they got their 40 and were able to take care of their families. And they've been loyal. I mean, we've got 2 guys been with us from the get-go, and a couple more that have been there, came on just right after. We recently had 2 that worked for us before that just came back to work for us. So, one, we are pretty demanding. We ask them to do things right, and I think they take a lot of pride in that. They go out and get the job done, and so financial reward, nobody's really seen a whole lot of that yet. So,
I mean, I've got food on the table and a home above my head. I mean, I still believe we live in the best country in the world, and oil and gas is the best industry. So that's just my belief. So
no doubt.
Well, I think we're right there with you.
hard work pays off in our
Hard work
industry.
pays off, and longevity. If you can deal with the highs and the lows, if you can deal with the tremendous highs and the tremendous lows.
Stoicism is my favorite thing.
But this young man sitting right next to me with 40 plus years, he's been there, done that. And you ask about Patriot Wellhead. These 2 gentlemen put everything out there and they take care of the people, not only that work for them, but they take care of their customers. And they do things right. If something, and in our industry, not everything is always right, but if it's not, they make it right. And so that's what separates, in my opinion, Patriot Wellhead from its competition. They are in West Texas, they're in Oklahoma. And I've asked Nick if he's interested in going to the Northeast, and he's not quite yet, but one of these days perhaps. But they do a very good job representing the wellhead industry here and in West Texas.
That's fun. What you excited about anything in the future? Anything new that you want to do as far as Patriot Wellhead? Or you just want to keep doing what you're doing right and keep it that going, or you guys want to expand, grow the business?
Well, we're always open, right?
Yeah.
But wellhead and frac stacks and that's our core business. And we're starting to see things trickle up a little bit. Certainly had a lot of inquiries lately. And I would love to see us get rip roaring there. But we're always open. In fact, actually, that's what I tell
How many frac locations do you think are operating right now? Nationwide.
Nick can answer that.
It's close to 200 right now, right? Frac fleets, 200 running right now?
In terms of
Just
all basins,
All basins nationwide. It's above probably 200 at this point.
Yeah, honestly, I can't tell you that because all of our focus, I can tell you how many rigs there are in
Sure.
Oklahoma and West Texas and New Mexico, but our focus is we're so laser focused on the areas where our customers operate.
Yep.
I can't, if you ask me about the Bakken, unfortunately, or the Rockies right now, or the Utica, or the Marcellus, I'm afraid I don't have the information. It's
What
not
about-
because it's not interesting.
Because I haven't deep dive. So Richard Spears, if you guys follow Richard, that guy can drill down on some data. So, he gave me, we had a conversation. There's roughly 40 frac companies, operational, with logo, title saying, hey, I'm a frac, fleet. And then out of those 40 companies, there's, I think nationwide at the moment when I talked to him, a few weeks back at the AAD in Permian, it was, a little bit over 200 frac fleets. But I've not divided that up and, where they're all at.
That's probably a pretty good guess. I don't know, maybe you know the number, Phil, but I'm going to assume right now in terms of rigs, we're probably somewhere around when it comes to wells that are, that are going to require completion with hydraulic fracturing. I'm going to assume we're 600 plus nationwide.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to be somewhere 3 to 1.
3 to 1. That's a good number to know.
Most of those, almost 50% of those rigs are in West Texas.
Yeah.
Do you think that 3 to 1 number stays around that because just the number of people that they can recruit to go out, or do you think it's an equipment shortage? The old fleets aren't. I mean, I talked to one guy. He's like, we're not running some of our old fleets. They've sat there too long. They're not operational really. It's cheaper instead of getting them operational, their old fleets. It's cheaper to build a new fleet.
Mm-hmm. There is some of that, but again, we touched upon innovation earlier, and procedures are where a lot of the innovation comes from. And again, it begins in the U.S. and then all of a sudden you'll see it in the Middle East or South America or whatnot. I'll give you an example. It was very common to complete wells one at a time 7 to 10 years ago. Tony, I'm not going to mention the names of our customers right now, but Tony is, his voice carries a lot of weight with engineering groups, and he'd worked with them and told them how they could optimize, and zipper fracs became more common, right? Typically 2.
Oh, wait, don't give me credit for zipper fracs.
Well, no, just working.
If you guys ever want to announce in here that you created something, that's okay.
Facilitate.
No one's going to debunk you in this room. Yeah, the inventor of zipper fracs, right here in my podcast studio. Everyone,
You didn't know that, did you?
Phil invented the watch.
I did, right here. You can see it right here. First one ever.
No, they don't teach a lot of the applied stuff sometimes in our universities, right? So you get younger engineers, and they know what they've learned in the classroom, and if they're fortunate enough, and often they'll get some of this,
Internships, get out
they'll get some of that, or they'll what we'll call schooling or learnings from some of their superintendents out in the field. But more often than not, they might bring in, if they talk to us, they'll bring Tony in, lunch and learn, and it's through that we, as Tony said, we facilitated some methods of optimization. That's picked up now, Matt. So one large Oklahoma-based operator, the first completion job they put us on, it was 10 simultaneous fracs. Right? It was kind of one pad, but really across 2. So they're still the same valves, right? The spools are longer, and there's a lot more of them, but it's really how you apply it, and that's the innovation in the protocols and the methodologies. So now you go back to your ratios, right? I can't remember. Was that 45 days, 60 days, 90 days? It's been 2.5 years we did that one. Yeah. But again, it's
from time of
start to finish when the pump started running. Right. But that's one frac crew. That was 10 wells. All right. So
3 drilling rigs too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So typically the AFEs were kind of 2/3 of the AFE was on the completion, 1/3 was on. I'm not in the.
You're not in the operator seat.
I'm not in the
but
operator seat.
You've seen some numbers, right?
Yeah, and so they're always trying to optimize.
And the more we know on our side, on the service side, the more the operators share that information. That's why they share so much with us. We're better partners for it.
It's a great point. That's a great point.
It is.
The communication is everybody wins. Not only does it make it more efficient, it makes it safer, and everybody's happier.
When I know that they're going to be on a well site for 30 days versus 40 versus 60, and I'm a good partner with them, I can also look at okay, well, I have to scrape by, at times we've been, hey, I need 10% profit this year to scrape by. Mm-hmm. But in the future, I'm going to need 30 so we can get back to whole, whatever it might be. But with their numbers sharing, we get to make those decisions on, okay, well, we want to grow with your company. We're willing to take less per well, but of course, over time, this is really going to help be beneficial to both of us.
No doubt.
So operators continue to share as much as possible with us. Mm-hmm. We want to help. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. So the net result is we, as an industry, right, and again, in West Texas and Oklahoma, I think this is where so much of the innovation, without going into a history lesson, really began.
I love history lessons. Go ahead.
Well, so much of it actually began in the Barnett with what was, Mitchell that became Devon. That's, if you want to talk about unsung heroes, there's some people there that maybe they don't know the name of George Mitchell, but the reason we have an abundance of energy here, and all this was done in, in our backyard, right? So the idea of good production from shale really came from Oklahoma and Texas. Mitchell had a lot to do with it. Certainly Continental had a lot to do with it. So
On and on and on. I mean, yeah, consolidation's happening right now. Clay Gaspar spoke on that again last night. We probably need more consolidation than we even thought we needed, just because there's so many operators competing for the same rock and the same people and the same, everybody's competing for all the same stuff. So throughout our industry, we may be taking a look at more consolidation, but boy, I love independence as well, like you guys.
now very much so. It's on the service side, and specifically in Wellhead, there were some great American names, right? FMC and Cameron and GE, which was Baker, but that they don't exist anymore, right? Patriot is actually for Oklahoma. We're an Oklahoma headquartered company. We're the only one. Cameron and FMC are European now, and GE no longer exists in this space.
You're the only American wellhead company.
No, Oklahoma.
And we invented
Did you guys? Yeah, they invented.
And I invented the watch.
If you love America and baby Jesus, you better. That's why they're called Patriot. Be highly aware when you use wellhead services. Patriot is the name. Since you're independent, can you do interesting things? Like, has anybody ever come to you? And I don't know if you did it or not, but I know I've been approached before. Would you be willing to discuss terms instead of cash for your invoices, interest in the wells?
That's a great question.
There's been times where people are like, hey, look, we don't really have enough capital to pay your invoices, but once these wells come in, you'll be a part of them.
Is that an offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. my first well, when I'll have zero money and it'll all be tied up in that well, yeah, absolutely, I'll need partners.
No,
There's just so many ways we could, continue to help each other. There's young engineers out there that may this last downturn, taught me some neat things. These petroleum engineers, they got a lot of gumption, and some of our friends that got laid off from some of the bigger operators, they went out and started their own. They went out and bought some old stripper well, and they know what they're doing enough to where they're just danger enough to go, hey, I'm going to buy that well, and I'm going to turn it from 2 barrels a day to 4 barrels a day and get the gas off of it and start a Bitcoin mine at the wellhead as well. I'm going to take this trapped gas, and now they got Bitcoins and some oil.
I read that. I read that this morning.
They're going
Exxon was doing that.
Yeah, they're going to do number 2, number 3. They turn 4 into 8. I mean, they'll go work at Taco Bell and use their well money to buy more wells, and they'll pay themselves off of whatever else. But
good.
Guys like that are like, man, I'll do anything. Like, I'll figure it out to help you.
At least they're working, right?
And we
And doing
all,
what they love.
Yes.
well, for me, it's a matter of national security, really. Like, why would we ever want to turn off a well? But big operators, those old assets that are stripper wells, that's a liability to them. And it's not enough production to be worth their money and time for their resources. But for younger guys like that, you don't have to, our industry doesn't have to go and plug those wells. We can take guys that, like, hey, we'll give these things away if you'll go out and make sure that they're operational and not environmentally damaging. There's so much. I mean, every time I turn around, that's why I have people in here to, like, let's find out every possible thing about this industry and make it better together.
So to answer your question, you have in your studio the board of directors, right? And we like new challenges. We're open to new things. So sure.
There you go. You heard it here first. They will invest in your well somehow, some way.
Absolutely.
If anything, with your knowledge and your wisdom. Phil knows very much, and I approach him oftentimes with good and bad ideas just to see what he thinks. Our industry, you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen our own great reset, our turnover,
Crew change.
the great crew change here in our industry. We need wiser, leadership that has been around a while, so that our ups and downs for us, like, oh my gosh, this downturn's worse. And you go, it's not. There's this other one, and this other one, or this is the greatest thing. I'm going to go out and spend all my money. No, don't do that. I've seen some things, or is this safe? I mean, just little simple answers like that. I always rely on people that have been around longer. It's terrifying to me how much the brain drain has gone on throughout this industry. You have to see it too.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a lot to add. You said.
Well, we throughout my career, we've gone through any number of great crew changes, if you will, and downturns. Prior to my career, the people in the late 50s, the mid 50s. I mean, there was a period of time after I graduated from college that I taught and coached. I never went to school to teach and coach, but I taught and coached. And it was amazing how many of the science teachers were geologists and or engineers or people who'd worked in the energy industry who lost their jobs and they wanted some stability in their lives, and so they went and taught school or whatever. So every time this happens, we go through this, and what we lose from our industry is tremendous. And we have to go reinvent the wheel again. Mm-hmm. So we have to take these young engineers, and if we've got data left from some of these wells that we drilled years ago, then they'll look at it. Sometimes they can use it, sometimes they can't. If not, they're going to make the same mistakes, spend the same money, and do the things that the people have done before them. And while that's a learning curve, I can't say that it's necessarily a good learning curve.
It's a rough one.
So right now our industry is really challenged with many things: tubulars, people, investment capital. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here. You touched on energy independence. And we're here to talk about Patriot Wellhead, not necessarily the political environment that we're in. However,
well, if you use Patriot Wellhead, you're contributing to energy independence.
Well, that's true.
You certainly make a better well.
Yeah.
I love that. You're going to make a better well. Put that wellhead out there. You're going to make a better well. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. You might as well. You don't even have to drill it. If you just put a Patriot Wellhead out there, it does it all on its own.
Yeah. So it's going to be
built-in fracking.
Can we work a deal?
I'm inventing new technology for you.
And it's his fault.
Yeah. He said he was coming in here today.
Yeah. No, the situation that we're in and how it's going to affect our future moving forward. Richard Spears talks about the ICE. Remember what that is? The internal combustion engine. And for as long as I live, and probably my grandkids and their grandkids, there's going to be internal combustion engines. So we're going to have to deal with these issues. As Clay Gaspar said last night, I think our industry is all in favor of renewables. They're all in favor of other sources of energy in conjunction with fossil fuels, because you're not going to be able to do those without fossil fuels. Mm. So he talked about the amount of energy that it takes to create the renewables. Where does that come from? Fossil fuels.
Yeah.
So
we're just as much as part of a renewable resource.
That's correct.
Anyone else is.
That's correct. And these people have a tendency. These people, I'm going to get in trouble for that. They're the folks that are uneducated as to the
energy literacy is what we're after.
Energy literacy, yeah, are going to have to understand what it takes to get us to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I mean, I'm going to go in the weeds here, but this is one thought that I've talked to people about. Honestly, oil and gas is a renewable resource. Our Earth does have a core that's constantly chewing up rock with molten, lava. And guess what happens when you do that? When you burn anything, there's oils and gases that escape what you burn at high temperatures, right? So somewhere, somehow, there will be new reservoirs of oil and gas around the globe.
Well,
we have to find them. So there's people that I've talked to that are like, if you really want to be honest about it, oil and gas is renewable.
Well, okay, I'll buy that, but there are vast deposits. I have to I'd be careful about using that term, but there are deposits of hydrocarbons throughout the world that are available, but it's purely based on economics. Mm-hmm. It has to be justifiable to go do it. There's tremendous. I'm trying to think. 1980, 1979, 80, Tenneco drilled some wells offshore, I think Rhode Island, and had very, very, very wells that had great potential. But because it's not in my backyard, and you're not going to set that platform off there where I can look at it, none of that ever came about. I believe there's been some exploratory work off of Florida on both sides.
Oh, I'm in. I'm going to go oil and gas Florida. Sign me up.
Well, you know, they actually drilled some wells in Hawaii. I actually know some people that went over there and drilled some wells in Hawaii. Now they turned out to be geothermal wells, but they actually drilled those wells, and they had success. So we have alternatives, but they still need our industry. They still need people like Patriot Wellhead to come and take care of their needs. So this industry may change, and it will be up and it will be down, but there's still going to be a domestic industry for the foreseeable future, plain and simple.
Well, when I get time and money, I'm going to get a robot body, and I'm going to be around for the very long foreseeable future.
Well, you're just going to have your brain transplanted.
Yes, I'll be there.
We'll have to talk to Misty about that.
No, she won't. She's counting that life insurance policy is growing every year. What's your? Got a new question. What's your biggest win? What's one you hang on the wall in your head of like, hey, this is why I do this every day? Like, do you have anything that just pops in your mind? Like, man, that was just the greatest day I've had in my career so far. Today, Matt Hill's podcast.
No,
No.
no, it's a great question, and I don't want to disappoint you, but we don't really think about it that way. So for us, it's very simple. And it's just fundamental. Every day that everything goes off without a hitch, everybody comes back. You know, people first, tools second. You know, customers are satisfied. That's our goal. That's what keeps us. That's what gets us up every morning. That's, you know, the idea of a new customer, a new project, all very exciting, right? Getting to meet new people, fantastic, right? But succeeding in a very conservative way on a daily basis, that's the driving force.
That's cool. What about you, buddy?
I have to go right along with that. He's on the money. Hitting our 3-year mark on the safety thing. Hate to bring it up again, but
No, that's I'm very proud of you guys for that. Yeah,
that was a celebration.
we all in this room care very much about our people that we work with. That's why, I mean, that's my biggest driving force for as much as I love our oil and gas industry. The second I was offered to work with Steve Knight and Knight Fire Specialists and get to protect, you know, not only their equipment investments and assets, but also our precious personnel. Goodness, I was like, I'm in. I'm totally in.
Yeah, I mean, 40 years in the oil field, I can tell you that is the biggest change. Yeah, all the technology and everything has changed tremendously, but the work ethic and safety and environmental thing, I mean, it's tremendous how much we've changed. Back when I broke out in 1980, when I left one job to go out on a crew that night, it was my option whether I wore a hard hat or not. So things have changed tremendously on that end of it.
I mean, it's scary that back then, if I was given that option, I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I promise you I didn't.
How many times did I sat through safety meetings, no matter whether it was on site or in a classroom, given the option to listen or not listen? I was like, oh my gosh, please let me get to work. I got stuff to do. And now I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat, like, man, did I miss anything? Could I, make sure I protect somebody in some way? Because, longevity wise, I look around that room and I see all the young green hats out there and I'm like, oh, I sure want them to go home at the end of this day. I want them to go home whole and make sure that they get to buy that boat that they don't need and that, lift that truck up that they don't need to do and get a hot tub,
buy those rims, $13,000.
I want them to all make the same financial mistakes too. You can go mess around with your safety financially, but don't do it with your health, man. Go home to the beautiful wife and kids. You have no idea how fortunate you are to, have that.
That's right.
Well, I don't want to keep you all day. We've been here about a little bit, but any ending thoughts you want to share with everybody about you or your business that people need to know about?
Nothing that's going to set anyone's hair on fire.
Well, you and I don't have any hair,
That's
buddy.
true. We don't have.
Why is this side, man? You guys have I have the bald side of this. We are aerodynamic, if anything.
It's the new orange or the new black
Yeah.
or whatever it is. No, you asked a great question, and that question was, really what turns you on? What's the big win? It's really being predictable and being good, being consistent.
That's cool.
So that's what we focus on each and every day, being more predictable, more consistent, every aspect, right? And we love working where we work. Oklahoma and Texas are great. You couldn't ask for better people to work with, right? So that's our focus.
What about you, buddy?
That's it.
Final thoughts.
Boy, actually, I quit thinking 10 minutes ago.
Need to give him
We're looking in these. I tell everybody in this room, don't be staring at my baby blues. You'll wander off and fall in love.
give him another drink.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, everybody, if you want to sponsor this show, you're welcome to go to oilfieldtailgate.com and sign up to be a sponsor. And if you want to get on the low end, just come into Trace Management and bring us a bottle of whiskey. This is Hochatown. This is one of our favorites because it's made right here in Oklahoma. And, of course, Phil today, yesterday we were at the Petroleum Alliance meeting, and he's like, Matt, you got any rum? So I got him because he's diplomatic in everything he does, and he's always very tactful about it. So there's a rum called Diplomatico, and it's got a guy on the label that looks a little bit like him. So I thought that was fun.
And thank you.
You're very welcome. God bless you, buddy. And Phil, what about you?
I just thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. This is great. Gives us an opportunity to talk about Patriot Wellhead. These gentlemen, they certainly bring something to the table.
Bought me lunch today.
Something to the table. And thank you very much. What you have done is amazing. You have taken this stuff to the next level, and this is where it's headed, and it's great. It really is. And thank Trace Management, Jason Goss and company, for giving us this opportunity to utilize this facility.
Yeah, the next level would be actually putting a wellhead together in here on races.
Not a problem.
That we can do.
Do you want to race a competitor in the podcast studio?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
We can do it.
I mean, the things we come up with, I'd be like, hey, guys, let's get the oil field games going. Put together wellhead and go. But the owners of the company need to go out there and do it. So watch their hands be amazed by, oh my gosh, these guys still got it. They just talk. I thought they just talked a big game, but they can do it. Who knew? He turns a wrench like no other. That's how he started.
There you go.
There we go. What's your email? How do people get a hold of you?
Great question. The best way to get a hold of us is either through the main number here in Oklahoma City, which is 405-445-5979. We're at 9505 West Reno, so it's right on the west side of Oklahoma City. All inquiries can come into admin@patriotwellhead.com. So ADMIN at patriotwellhead.com.
You're on LinkedIn.
We are under Tony McSparrin and Nick Armoudian, or you can search Patriot Wellhead. Oklahoma's home, so everybody in Oklahoma really knows about us or knows us. We'll see you at some of the shoots and some of the other events. And I did want to express an appreciation for the one thing that our industry is lacking in is reaching out to the younger generations with mediums such as this. And this is a big deal. Mm-hmm. This is a really big deal. And a lot of people talk about it. Over lunch we talked about it a little bit, but very few people do it. So thank you for doing it.
I'm blessed. I'm honored.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? How do they get a hold of? How do you want people to get a hold of you? Same.
Yeah,
Admin.
that's the best route. Yeah.
PatriotWellhead.com, everybody. Reach out to them. Go to their website. Find out what they do. Mm. What about you, Phil? Want to plug anything?
Yeah, the SPE golf tournament's coming up Friday, May the 13th. It's our scholarship tournament. It's how we raise money. We certainly need the support. MCASA, we haven't talked about MCASA, the Mid-Continent Oilman Shooting Association, will have a 2-gun shoot on, I think it's June the 2nd. At H&H, it will be ARs,
and your pistols.
And it'll be an all-day event. It's lots and lots of fun, and
it's
lots
so
and
much
lots
fun.
of shooting, if you're into that kind of thing. And then our SPE, a regular SPE Sporting Clays tournament will be, I think, the 16th of September in McLeod, same place the AAD will be.
And anybody watching and listening still, I have a website, again, if you want to sponsor. But most importantly, the biggest thing I care about on there is I have a calendar for all of our MidCon oil and gas events and meetings. So go to oilfieldtailgate.com. There's a link right at the top, big bold green, or was it yellow letter, says calendar. Click that. It shows you all the events and meetings in Oklahoma that I can possibly find for oil and gas related, times. So please use that. And if I miss anything, please reach out to me through there. Sign up on oilfieldtailgate.com and be a member. And I'll make sure I try to get a newsletter out once a month if I possibly can. And of course, follow all the social media platforms. This thing's going to be everywhere once again.
And let's see, the Industry Collective for the second quarter is going to be either in April or May, and be looking for that. It will be a party, a parking lot party, and that's the one that the same organization that had the meeting last night, the IADC, AADE, SBE, API, AAPG, all of those organizations we call the Industry Collective. We also have an event already planned for July in Oklahoma City. Will be the Energy Forum, and then we're still working on the fourth quarter. So if you enjoy coming to those kind of things, that's a neat deal to come to.
Yeah, and hey, man, now I've got a whole nother podcast I want to do about how are we going to, as an industry, reach out to the next generation. What could we do? Can we put classrooms together? Can you have a wellhead classroom at a Francis Tuttle Votech? Do we need a oil and gas class at a Francis Tuttle Votech? Like, here is drilling, completion, production, facilities, and here's an overview for all of that. I mean, there's something our state really needs to look into. But anyway, we'll save that for next time. You guys are always welcome to come in anytime you want. And I tell Phyllis all the time, if you've been a guest on the show and you enjoy it, come back anytime you like if you have something you want to talk about, or if you just want to be my co-host and you find somebody interesting. If you find somebody interesting, bring them in here. Be my co-host. Let's grill them. Let's find out what they're about.
Outstanding.
That's what this is for. Anyway, I'll let everybody go, and thank you. Appreciate y'all very much. Take care. God bless. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Matt.